Usually when you look at the dynamic of, like, any pop group, the designated mood maker, the loud, funny one who protects everyone else and keeps the energy up is just assumed to be naturally brimming with confidence.
Right. I mean, that's the standard narrative for that role, isn't it? You kind of assume they're the classic extrovert archetype.
Exactly. Someone who never really has a second thought about speaking their mind, like they were just born holding a megaphone, basically.
Yeah, because you'd think you need bulletproof self-esteem to constantly put yourself out there as the group's shield, right, and, their primary entertainer.
But see, if you look at the journey of Momoko Hashimoto, that assumption completely shatters.
Oh, totally. It just falls apart.
So today, our mission for this deep dive is to figure out a very specific psychological puzzle within the idol group Takane no na de shiko, or Takaneko, as they're often called.
Right, and it's a fascinating puzzle for you to chew on today.
Yeah, because we're asking, how does an idol who explicitly describes herself as, like, intensely negative, overly anxious, and severely lacking in self-confidence simultaneously operate as the vital, protective papa figure?
And the energetic core of a 10-member group, no less. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. So we've got this massive stack of official profiles, documentary transcripts, and interviews for Takaneko to pull from today. And I gotta tell you, Momoko's story is, well, it's anything but a glossy pop star fairy tale.
No, not at all. It's essentially a masterclass in weaponizing your own insecurities.
Oh, I love that phrasing, weaponizing insecurities.
Yeah, because to really understand how she operates in Takaneko today, you have to look at the immediate, just crushing weight of her early success. The resilience she has now is entirely reactionary to the trauma of how she entered the industry.
Right, so let's look at that entry because, she fought fiercely for it. She's the third of 5 siblings born in Yamaguchi Prefecture, and she was heavily influenced by her older sister's love for, hello, Project Idols.
They actually auditioned for STU-48 together.
Right. Yeah, they did. But Momoko failed the final round. And, that really could have been the end of it for a young teenager.
She kept pushing, though. I mean, she joined the Hello Pro Kensuze program in 2017.
Yeah.
But the logistics of the idol industry are just brutal if you don't live in a major hub like Tokyo.
Oh, definitely. The travel alone.
Exactly. She had to quit after just 4 months. The physical and mental strain of trying to balance that really rigorous trainee program with just a normal school life back in Yamaguchi was, it was just too much at that age.
Which really makes her next move feel incredibly desperate, in a way. At 15, facing what she considered her absolute last chance, she auditioned for TV Asahi's Last Idol Season 3.
And the format of that show is just built for maximum psychological pressure.
It really is. Challengers literally have to directly battle existing members for their spots on television. So she walked in, challenged the standing center, won, and instantly debuted as the center of the second generation.
And this is exactly where the psychological fracturing begins for her. Because winning sounds like the ultimate dream, right?
Yeah.
But consider the immediate reality.
Right.
She was still living in Yamaguchi. She was commuting 2.5 hours each way by bullet train just to participate.
2.5 hours.
Yeah. So you win this massive television battle, the camera's cut, and then you're just sitting alone on a train for 3 hours processing what just happened.
And what happened was genuinely traumatic. She got this center spot, sure, but she had to physically watch the former center, the girl she just defeated, break down in tears on national television.
Oh, that's brutal.
And the other members were crying for their lost friend, too. It triggered this immense wave of survivor's guilt. In her interview, she talks about how she just kept wondering, would it have been better if I hadn't joined?
It totally flips the concept of victory on its head.
Sure.
You win the grand prize, but your prize is walking into a locker room filled with the grief of the people you defeated.
Who are now supposed to be your teammates.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, imagine getting this massive promotion at a new corporate job. You're super excited.
Right.
But you only got it because a deeply beloved coworker was publicly demoted to make room for you. So you walk into the office on Monday morning. The environment is just horribly tense. Everyone is mourning the old dynamic. And you are sitting at the big desk just drowning in imposter syndrome.
You'd be terrified to even speak.
Exactly. You wouldn't want to draw any attention to yourself.
And that's the exact mechanism that ingrained a visceral fear of public opinion in her. From day one, her success was intrinsically tied to someone else's pain.
Yeah, that's heavy.
And on top of that, the public's real-time judgment of whether she was, worthy of taking that center spot. Her entire foundation in the industry was built on guilt.
which inevitably morphed into an intense fear of standing out, which is wild, considering she was literally the center of the group. But during those last Idol days, she became absolutely terrified of voicing her opinions. The guilt just completely paralyzed her.
Well, and it wasn't just a fear of speaking up in meetings either.
Yeah.
That anxiety started bleeding into how she viewed her fundamental identity as an idol, specifically her performance.
Right, because the public scrutiny was just relentless.
Yeah.
And it zeroed in right on her singing.
Oh, yeah, the criticism of her voice was loud.
It was brutal. People were saying she had this strong habit of scooping notes, what they call shikuri in Japanese. And critics constantly told her that her shikuri meant her voice, quote, wasn't suited for an idol.
Which is such a rigid way to look at music.
It drives me crazy. I have to push back against the entire industry standard on this one. Because in literally any other music genre, rock, jazz, indie pop, a vocal quirk like a heavy scoop is a signature artistic strength.
Oh, absolutely.
It's what gives a singer soul, you know? It makes them instantly recognizable. But they used it against her.
Yeah, because the traditional idol industry has historically preferred a very specific, polished, almost uniform vocal purity. And because her voice didn't fit that cookie-cutter mold, it was weaponized against her by the public.
And when your entire job is to express yourself on a stage, having the public tell you that your natural instrument is fundamentally flawed is just devastating. I mean, she temporarily lost her love for singing entirely.
She was terrified of standing in front of people.
Yeah, constantly worrying that every time she opened her mouth, she was just validating her critics.
And it really pushed her to the brink. When Last Idol unexpectedly disbanded in May 2022, she was completely lost.
I can't even imagine.
Right. You have this foundational guilt, this deep fear of your own voice, and suddenly the group you endured all of that for just ceases to exist. She seriously considered walking away from the industry forever.
But she didn't. And that decision to keep going is where the environment change becomes the catalyst for everything she is now. She transitions into Takane no na de shiko. And Takaneko's music is produced by Honeyworks, which changes the entire context of her vocal style.
That was the turning point, because Honeyworks is known for highly expressive, character-driven, emotional tracks. They don't write standard flat idol pop, they write these miniature theatrical productions.
Yeah, they really do.
So in that environment, Momoko realized that her shikuri wasn't a flaw to be smoothed out. It was an irreplaceable weapon. It actually carried the emotional depth that Honeyworks music demands.
It's so cool. She didn't have to fix her voice. She just needed to find the right frame for it. But her musical environment wasn't the only thing that shifted. Her approach to group dynamics did a complete 180.
That's the most surprising part, honestly.
Right. When she joined Takaneko, she was joined by Momona Matsumoto and Himari Momiyama from Last Idol. You'd think they'd be a tight-knit trio right out of the gate, but the sources show they barely even knew each other.
Because of the strict seniority rules and the fragmented subunits in their previous project, they were essentially strangers. I mean, Momoko couldn't even drop her polite speech, her kaigo, with them at first.
The formality was still a massive barrier.
Exactly. And on top of that awkwardness, they were joining 7 brand new members who had just won the JDL audition. 7 girls who had never been idols before.
Total rookies.
Right. So put yourself in Momoko's shoes in that moment. She looks at these 7 rookies, and she knows exactly what they're feeling. She knows the paralyzing fear of walking into a new environment, terrified to speak up, afraid of public judgment, terrified of making a single mistake.
Wait, okay, I have to pause you right there, because this is the psychological leap that doesn't immediately track for me.
Okay, lay it out.
If she is so paralyzed by her own fear of public opinion, and she's still carrying all this anxiety from her past, why on earth would she volunteer to be the loudest one in the room? She decides to become the Kirikomi Taicho, the attack captain. She takes on the variety star role. That seems completely counterintuitive for someone with severe anxiety.
I agree. It seems counterintuitive until you factor in empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah. Momoko didn't miraculously cure her own anxiety. She was still terrified. But her empathy for those 7 rookies overrode her fear. She knew that if someone didn't absorb the awkwardness in that room, those girls would suffer the exact same silencing fear she endured at 15.
Oh, wow. I see. It makes me think of being at an incredibly stiff dinner party.
We've all been to those.
Right. Everyone is painfully nervous. Nobody wants to say the wrong thing. And then one seasoned guest purposefully tells a really loud, embarrassing story about themselves, maybe knocks over a water glass or something just to break the ice. They willingly play the fool so that everyone else feels safe enough to drop their shoulders and relax.
That's a perfect analogy. It's a sacrificial leadership strategy. By deliberately speaking up first, making loud jokes, and acting bright and goofy, she created a psychological safe space for Takaneko.
That is so brave.
It is. Her desire to protect them gave her the courage to act brave, which in turn fostered a genuinely supportive dynamic where everyone could finally breathe.
And she didn't just engineer that safety internally with the members, she demanded it from the fans, too.
Yeah.
She explicitly pushed the concept of Akashi pushing the whole group right from the start.
Which is just another brilliant defense mechanism masquerading as group promotion.
Oh, absolutely.
By constantly telling her fans to push the whole group, rather than just focusing on her, she's actively dismantling the very metric that traumatized her in the past.
Oh, right. If the fans love the whole group, there's no bitter competition for the center spot. There's no survivor's guilt. She essentially trained her audience to create a warm, accepting environment that ended up easing her own fears.
But, we do have to look at the physical reality of maintaining that kind of front.
Yeah, the crash.
Right. Playing the attack captain while quietly managing severe anxiety takes a massive toll. Healing isn't linear, and about a year into her Takaneko journey, right around their first tour, her mental and physical state started to crack.
The rapid, completely unprocessed transition between disbanding one group and debuting as the mood maker in another really caught up with her. She described her heart feeling completely unsettled. She actually had to take a hiatus.
And she had physical symptoms, too.
Yeah, she suffered from erytitis media, which caused temporary hearing loss. When your instrument is your voice, losing your hearing, even temporarily, is terrifying. It's just a stark reminder of the grueling physical and mental demands of the industry.
So during that hiatus, she retreated to her grandmother's house back in Yamaguchi. It was a total disconnect. She spent her days resting, surrounded by 5 cats, just completely removed from the hyper-competitive pace of Tokyo.
And there's something so grounding about that image, right? Just 5 cats demanding food, completely oblivious to the pressures of the idol industry.
Exactly. It's a totally different world.
And during this quiet time, she had a real awakening about her parents. She suddenly noticed all the invisible labor they were doing, making meals, doing laundry, drawing the bath, things she had to manage completely alone while playing the protective papa figure in Tokyo.
And in that environment of unconditional safety, her mother gave her an out.
Oh, this part got me.
Yeah, she gently told Momoko that if it was too painful, she could just quit. No pressure, no expectations. You could just stay in Yamaguchi.
But I find her reaction to that offer so incredibly fascinating. Because Momoko constantly identifies as a negative thinker. She literally says out loud to her fans, "I'm not suited to be an idol."
She says it all the time.
Right. But when her mom offered her the chance to walk away, she realized something profound. Beneath all that vocalized anxiety, she secretly held the absolute highest expectations for herself. She realized she couldn't let go because her ambition was actually stronger than her fear. She wanted to see her dream through.
It really redefines what we typically consider resilience to be. We often think resilience is the absence of doubt.
Right, like you're just fearless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Momoko proves that true resilience is the presence of intense, crippling doubt alongside a stubborn, quiet refusal to give up. She expects greatness from herself, and that internal expectation forces her to keep walking back onto the stage, even when she's trembling.
That paradox is exactly what makes her so compelling. But, we've talked so much about these deep psychological struggles and her resilience. I want to talk about the personality that actually manifests on stage. Because the character the fans interact with is wonderfully eccentric.
The contrast is definitely part of her charm. She carries this heavy internal weight. But her external hobbies and quirks are just so specific and odd. Like, she loves anime and dramas, she's a voracious reader, and she claims to be an absolute expert at sleeping.
But the special skills are where you really see the weird, endearing side of her. Like, her thumbs bend backwards extremely far.
Which is slightly terrifying, but very unique.
Yeah, and she does an impression of Toad Canopio from the Mario movie that she readily admits only a few people actually understand.
It's so niche.
But my absolute favorite detail from her profile, she claims to have 30% accuracy psychic powers.
I love this part.
Because her pores are sensitive.
The 30% psychic pores claim is brilliant because it's so absurdly specific. Like, what does a 30% accurate pore even predict? It shows a level of self-awareness and a willingness to just be completely ridiculous.
It totally shatters the illusion of the flawless manufactured pop star. You have this girl who is carrying the emotional weight of a 10-member group, but she's also standing there predicting the future with terrible accuracy through her skin. It makes her infinitely more human.
And that humanity dictates exactly how she interacts with her fans. Because she's still learning to navigate her own insecurities, she openly admits she isn't great at expressing pure affection, clearly.
Right. She gets a little shy about it.
Yeah, and this results in a very classic Sunder dynamic with her audience. She can be a bit prickly or deflective on the surface, but the fans know she cares deeply.
Oh, the fans have completely figured her out. When
Wow.
she slips back into her negative thinking and starts putting herself down, the fans actually playfully scold her. They get mad at her for not believing in herself as much as they believe in her. It's this beautiful, cyclical support system.
Because they don't love her, despite her flaws or her anxiety. They love her because of those exact traits. For you listening, you're essentially watching a young woman who is fiercely authentic and deeply vulnerable, constantly striving to conquer her own mind to protect the people around her.
And she's striving toward a massive, tangible goal, too. Her ultimate dream isn't just to be a successful individual star. She wants to sell out the Nippon Budokan with all 10 members of ta ka ne ko. She wants to stand in that legendary arena and see the beautiful scenery of their fans' penlights filling the space.
It's the perfect culmination of her evolution, really. She started her career terrified of the spotlight, feeling overwhelming guilt for taking a center position away from someone else. And now her biggest dream is to stand on one of the most prestigious stages in Japan. Not isolated, but surrounded by the 9 teammates she fiercely protects, celebrating a collective victory.
Looking at her whole journey from that 900-kilometer commute as a terrified 15-year-old carrying the weight of other people's tears to a self-doubting singer who hated the sound of her own voice.
It's been a long road.
It has. Through sheer empathy, a crucial change of musical environment, and an incredibly stubborn resilience, she transformed into this indispensable, quirky, psychic-poured attack captain. She is the beating heart of Takano Nadeshiko.
She really is. She took her biggest vulnerabilities, her unique rule-breaking voice, her crippling anxiety, her intense fear of speaking out, and molded them into the exact tools she needed to shield her teammates and connect profoundly with her fans. Momoko didn't hide her flaws, she used them as a bridge.
That's beautifully said.
Which actually leaves you with something to consider in your own life. Think about it. What perceived flaw or weakness are you currently exhausting yourself trying to hide? That might actually be the exact thing you need to connect authentically with the people around you.
Oh, I love that. So the next time you see someone playing the loud, confident extrovert with the megaphone, remember Momoko. You don't need to be born with bulletproof confidence to pick up the megaphone. Sometimes you just need to be brave enough to use it to cheer for someone else. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the resilient, wonderful world of Momoko Hashimoto and Takane no Nadeshiko. Keep exploring their music, and we will catch you next time.